Hey everyone, this is Yeri from Astrology Healing Arts, and today I am going to talk about a very insidious problem in today's world that happens to be very astrologically apropos. The Sun is in Warrior Aries, approaching an exact degree conjunction to Mercury retrograde, and as many of you already know, Mercury is the planet of communication, and this mercurial influence is really being heightened right now, for better or worse. And so this particular subject I'm going to be covering today has been on my mind for a while, not just now, but there are things coming up right now that I think a lot of you can relate to as we are all witnessing collectively this sort of transhumanist, movement that's changing the way that people relate to each other, the way that people speak and communicate to each other in person and online. So I'd like to speak to the dehumanization that occurs through so much digital influence, which has reshaped people's views and priorities through constant distractions and exaggerated trends. And we can trace this to the either ignorant or malignant design of a narcissistic, attention deficit, and superficial society that encourages daily consumption of digital scrolling, which over time, it slowly dehumanizes the individual, teaching them that people are as dispensable as a plastic utensil. I mean, this trend started on the Tinder dating app a few years ago, where people could quickly swipe through the faces of potential dating partners. But now, it's the way that we treat everyone on social media. Anyone, anywhere, for any number of silly reasons, is subject to becoming a meme, caricature, and a laughingstock for the rest of the world without their consent, not to mention the erasure of history. History is not what we've been told it is. That's another subject, but the AI and the reshuffling of the stories that get passed down and watered down in the memes, this is also part of the problem. People have a shorter attention span and they aren't really equipped or willing or have time to do the research themselves. So they're getting their education through memes. Now, I'm not saying that memes don't have their place. They can be funny and they can be educational, but the problem is that they can also be misused. And some people don't know the difference and they don't know how to weed through things that are irrelevant or straight up false. And furthermore, meme culture exaggerates ideas, circulates and exaggerates ideas that disconnect people even further, because it really strengthens the echo chamber rather than people's ability to think critically. It doesn't really encourage people to do the research because a lot of memes make statements in a very bold way, like, this is the truth, or did you know this? It's almost like when you see a billboard, the way that products and services are advertised in a very bold way. Well, people have caught on. This is the way to grab people's attention through memes and big, bold letters and words. And again, this has its use. I'm not saying that memes should not be used at all, but the problem is that people are trapped in an echo chamber. They have forgotten how to relate to people in a way that is respectful and genuine, and to engage in honest discourse. I'd like to share a personal experience that I've had in this vein. A few years ago, I was experiencing a lot of attacks online from various people from both sides of the political spectrum because I was voicing my opinions a lot, and there were people both on the far left and the far right that were getting agitated by me, even though I was only stating my own thoughts on my own posts and platforms. So a good key point to factor in is that before this happened, I was in general, a very well-liked person in my community. I never had any major conflicts with anyone, never had any real lasting enemies, and I had a wide circle of associates, including groups that I knew in person that were members of my real life community, and these groups that online I had never met. So all of this was going fine for a while, and then one day I actually got tired of it. I got tired of all of the group think, the influence of group mentality. It was like this conglomeration of ridiculous experiences with different groups for me to finally make a decision, and my ultimate response to it was to walk away. Now, some people would consider this to be a sign of weakness, but in reality, it took a lot of strength to leave the dramatic, addicting echo chamber. People parroting each other, parroting online cult leaders, and hugely egotistical thought police. Even the ancient Stoics believed that it was a greater strength to choose one's battles than to suffer fools, and to choose silence over reactivity in the face of ridicule. A person's true motives will always be revealed over time through their actions. So you could say that I chose to leave that up to fate and get on with my life, and I was very glad that I did, because I had enough to deal with at that time, and because I decided to give my attention to those things that were actually in front of me, that were palpable, that I needed to deal with in real time, in real waking, walking life. I lived, I experienced victories, and I had tremendous breakthroughs in my life. And now, as a result, I'm in a completely better place in my life, and so many wonderful things have evolved for me. Again, I have to underline, this is the result of leaving or escaping the echo chamber. And I think a lot of people are caught up in different types of echo chambers that have different sorts of results in their life. And again, I witnessed highly influential people from all walks of life behaving in ways that I found ironic, for lack of a better word. From those who were seen as bona fide gurus to those who were simply leaders of organized so-called philosophical groups. A lot of people today love to throw around that word philosophy and philosopher, but I was just seeing that it was a misuse of the term, because in my opinion, a philosopher is a person who thinks deeply about fundamental questions and subjects that we all face in life, questions about our existence, questions about what is God, and in general seeking wisdom rather than seeking superiority and dominance over others. So I noticed this pattern where these online, thought police, I'm going to call them, they would literally monitor other people's posts in order to use them as an example to school others on what to say, what not to say or do. At first this seems harmless and even useful as a teaching method, but after a while, when I really caught wind of this trend that I've never heard anyone else address before, might I add, I thought it was really uncanny and rather cheap. In some cases, these activities turn into chastising of certain individuals, often behind their back. And I mean, it really went to show how much time that we are all spending on the internet rather than holding meaningful dialogue with each other in person. And also how quickly people jump to a certain conclusion about someone or something and run with it. And then, when it comes to people and their personal lives, this turns into gossip, slander, and smear campaigns. I'm sure in some form people have always found a way to do this through public humiliation, and even through something as horrific as the Inquisition and the witch trials, burning women and drowning them because they were suspect. The point, though, is that in today's world, people get to hide behind a screen. They are all too comfortable and ready to tear others down, to attack them, gang up on them, dox them, without any physical consequences whatsoever. There are no bar brawls where men get to duke it out or women get to hiss at each other face to face. These keyboard cowards, I'm going to call them, there is a term, by the way, called keyboard warriors, but that is something that I find also very ironic because as a person who is very interested in martial arts and I practice I have my own routine with that I prefer not to share because I value my privacy and I'm not really doing it for attention. I know that the basic concept of being a warrior has nothing to do with talking shit online and attacking people for their views. That is the work of a coward. That is nothing to do with being a warrior or going to war or anything that has to do with truth or justice. I find it a sign of weakness. And that is because you are not looking anyone in the eyes. When you post that angry shit on somebody else's content just because you don't like them for no reason, unprovoked, you're just dumping. That's what I call it. It's dumping. There's nothing philosophical about it whatsoever. And, these people get away scot-free after complaining about how displeased they are with somebody else's viewpoint. And I really want to ask these people, hey, feel better about yourself now? You went and you talked a bunch of smack on somebody else's social media page. You gave them a piece of your mind because you thought their voice sucked, they're ugly, you didn't like that they voted red or blue, or because you think they're literally Hitler. OMG. I mean, the immaturity level is staggering and it's widespread. And so just understand that if you are one of those people that has experienced this or witnessed this, it's good to, just keep that in your mind that a bully is a coward who hides behind a computer screen to shield himself or herself, whatever, from his or her own weakness. This is not something that anyone should be even mildly affected by because it's easy to get drawn in to the drama and want to defend yourself and then it turns into flame wars. A troll comes along and says this and that and just said, I had that happen to me. I had all of these things happen to me way back, and part of this was, I should say, part of the reason for the inspiration for the book that I wrote, Psychic Self-Defense in the Zodiac. Part of it was due to personal experiences, and the other part was due to my observation of worldly experiences. But the part that was, it was a combination of what I experienced with people online, what I experienced with people directly in my life, in my family, relationships, really narcissistic people that I crossed paths with that got into my life and left sort of an infection, of their imprint. And so I had to figure out what was my role in this? How was I participating in the perpetuation? How was I giving space and giving voice to these people? And, I'm sure that I did make mistakes along the way. We all make mistakes and we've all played a role in this somehow. The role that any of us play is most often based on ignorance. For example, the people that collectively support and enable a narcissist don't know just how toxic that person's behavior is behind the scenes. All they see and hear is the image that the narcissist wants that person or that group of people to see. And other people behind the scenes are suffering from the behavior of that narcissist. And this applies to a lot of different relationship dynamics and situations that unfortunately have become commonplace due to the internet and how easy it is to hide behind a screen in attacking and mocking people as a way of life. And as soon as I put out my first album, I had some troll come on and say, wow, you really need to practice. Like, this is awful. And I thought, wow, feel better about yourself now? I mean, who are these people? There's so many of those people out there on YouTube and other channels that just seem to thrive on tearing other people down, no matter what they're doing. It's gotten to the point that by now, anyone who's participated in posting anything on any social media platform has experienced casual verbal attacks and ridicule. Even if it doesn't matter to that person, it's the culture. It's internet culture. It's the way that people communicate now. It's broken. The system is broken, and I feel that this does carry out into everyday encounters and interactions with people because they have forgotten. The world is just not what it was even 10 years ago. I go out sometimes and just anywhere I go, whether it's the supermarket or the cafe or just out for a walk at the local park, and I'm just noticing that people have become so disconnected because of how they've been influenced and trained by the internet. And so it becomes now an exercise for us to pull ourselves away, to reclaim our humanity, our intelligence, our compassion, and our awareness. Because by being absorbed into the screen so many hours per day, we really are not participating fully in our lives, and we are subject to mind control. Anyway, there's a lot more that can be said about how we communicate today in general with each other. And I think that there's a lot of room for growth and allowing for other people's points of view that are very different from our own. Because I think the problem is that what has come of the internet is this sort of trying to police and govern what other people are allowed to say and even believe. And it's not our fault that this is happening, but it's now that we've become aware of it, it is our responsibility to make the changes to repair our relationships with each other. Now, some of the things that I've noticed people are commonly attacked for online are the following. People who are centrist in their political orientation, who don't necessarily take a side, or who might be more right-leaning than left-leaning, because today the left has really gained control in the media, and they are the tool of the controllers who are actually manipulating the groupthink. And when I say this, I'm definitely speaking about the radicals, the ones who are really in an uproar about things, who are really hateful and angry and always want to start, some argument with other people because, oh, how dare you say that? How dare you not agree with me? Blah, blah, blah. The other group of people that tend to be heavily attacked are people who see the earth as flat. I know this sounds silly, but people actually hate flat earthers. I don't get it. It's the weirdest thing ever to witness because people get so upset about it. When in the old days, before the internet, I think people would just maybe look at you funny or ask you, why do you think that? Just why do you think that? Now it's like, how dare you? About any subject. It doesn't even matter what it is. I think people are just way too comfortable with this, and we shouldn't really be bothered. Even the ancient philosophers, the Marcus Aureliuses of the past have said that it only affects us if we allow it to. And then as the common nursery rhyme saying goes, sticks and stones might break my bones, but words will never hurt me. If someone says something you don't like, oh, well, water off a duck's back. Whatever happened to that philosophy? Now it's like there's this total uproar if people are saying things that we don't like. Life really is too short and too fragile for us to treat each other this way or for us to be bothered, And that's why I have chosen oftentimes the path of the hermit. I do have friends and I'm pretty happy overall. I've just chosen to remove myself from a lot of groups because I just don't like the way groups operate in general, and especially online. So if you are part of a community that you really enjoy, consider yourself blessed and just really remind those people in your life that you care about how special they are to you. Again, I feel like life is really too short to be squabbling over things like politics, different points of view. A criminal is a criminal, and a criminal should be held accountable for their actions, but people should not treat other people like criminals because they believe or think differently. And that's what's been happening in the digital age. In summary, we can maintain our integrity in this digital world by simply taking a moment to reflect instead of being so quick on the trigger, quick on the keyboard, in reacting to things that could be really not worth the time and energy. And in so doing, we, rather than have our attention be diverted and our energy scattered, we redirect our energy. This is an act of discipline. This is part of mental martial arts because we are choosing the battle that we are going to engage in. It has to be something worthwhile now. And I'm going to fight with honor and I'm going to die with honor, not in a stupid squabble online about something that doesn't amount to anything in the long run. If you've listened this far, thank you for joining me during this very potent Mercury retrograde in Warrior Aries. When we speak, may our words be worth being said and heard, leading to affirmative actions and positive outcomes. Take care until next time. This was Yeri with Astrology Healing Arts. I am available for virtual readings, including psychic and astrology. You can book your session online at astrologyhealingarts.com.